Boom, what's going on, faithfuls? It's your boy Mike from the Nothing But Niners crew. We're here to bring you guys a quick little video podcast here. Today I'm joined by my man Al from 49ers Web Zone. But before we get into that, I want to let you guys know where to find us. First and foremost, if this is your first time watching us on YouTube, I want to say thank you. Make sure you do yourself a favor and us a favor and click that subscribe button, okay? Hit the subscribe button and the little bell there so you get the alerts for every time we go live. All right. Also, check out the website, www.nothingbutniners.com. There you're going to be led to all of our different social media pages. We have Twitter, we have Snapchat, and both of those handles are Nothing But 9ERS. You'll also find our Instagram. You'll find our Facebook. Those are Nothing But Niners. And we have a podcast. We're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play. We're on all the major platforms. If you guys search NB Niners or 49ers, will pop up there somewhere. I promise you guys. All right. And then now time to get to the man of the hour, or maybe quarter hour. We're only going to be here for a few minutes, but my man Al Sacco, senior writer of 49ers Web Zone. You guys can give him a follow on Twitter at AlSacco49 on Twitter. Check him out over there, man. He's great, interactive. They've got a podcast and everything. Al, what's going on, baby? How you doing?
Mike, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
No problem at all, man. I want to thank you for taking some time out. This is the slow time of the year. We're dying to get some content out there. So I figured, you know what? Let's start talking to other writers and see what's going on with them and their perspective on things. So it's been a pretty quiet off season so far. First, let the people know your thoughts on things going on in general. I know that we just dodged a big bullet with Reuben Foster. The team seems to be staying out of trouble, especially with the news that's coming out lately with LaShawn McCoy yesterday, and now what's going on with Marcel Darius. I don't know if you even heard about that. Did you hear that headline yet?
I did see that. Yeah, at this point, Mike, nothing surprises me. So it's just crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts, man. But it seems like this is, believe it or not, one of the quietest off seasons the 49ers have had in a very long time, and I, for one, appreciate it. So.
Yeah, they needed it. And like you said, the big thing hanging over their head was the Reuben Foster issue. And for him to only get 2 games, I kind of thought, just because you never know with Roger Goodell, I mean, he's kind of a wild card. I kind of thought what would happen is he'd end up with maybe 4 games, maybe even 5, and then they'd appeal it down to 2. So for him just to get 2 games, I'm sure the Niners said, we'll take it. Maybe something was said behind the scenes, we'll give them 2 when you guys just take it and don't appeal. So getting off with 2 is pretty light, and they'll take that. And we'll see, what's Malcolm Smith going to do? What's Fred Warner going to do? Is Toomer going to step in and maybe play some snaps? But I actually like Fred Warner to come in and play while Foster's out. We'll see how he does in camp, but right now he's my favorite to come in and get most of the snaps.
Absolutely. I'm going to come back to that, actually. That's a really good point. But I want to talk about the appeal and the suspension and all that. So I was trying to figure out whether or not it was a behind-the-scenes deal. So, for example, I believe that Jameis Winston took the deal. I believe that they told Jameis, we'll suspend you for 6 and you can try to appeal it, or we'll just give you the 3 and you tell us you're not going to appeal it, then that's fine. I'm wondering if Reuben Foster was given a deal or an offer like that also. Because if not, just the 2 games, why not try to appeal it? What's the worst that could happen if you try to appeal it, So I want to get your opinion on that. What do you think, that he was given the opportunity to appeal, or, it's 4, or you can take the deal at 2, or do you think that it was just 2 and they decided not to do the appeal?
If you look at it, I mean, it's easy to think he should have gotten more, just based on the way they've suspended people in the NFL. So for him to only get 2, that sort of tells me maybe there was some communication, and I don't know. I'm just totally guessing here, but because like you said, if he gets 2, why not appeal and try to get 1? With that sort of thing. So again, you don't know for sure, but that makes sense, Mike. To me, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. All right. And then you also mentioned who's going to step up for him. We've got Malcolm Smith and Brock Coyle. That's how it's penciled in my head right now, just because of that salary that he has. And we saw Brock Coyle out there last year, so we know he's capable of doing it. Corey Toomer was somebody that I personally felt like was brought in just to be a camp body, a little bit of familiarity with the system coming from San Diego. But it's possible that they think that he might be able to contribute. And you mentioned Fred Warner. I love the addition of Fred Warner, man. I think this guy could be almost – I always said that the 49ers did Eric Reid a disservice by moving him around so much between linebacker and safety and sometimes corner. And then, and then the year before that with O'Neal, he was doing lineman duties and corner. He was all over the place. The thing is, I feel like Fred Warner is actually meant to be that guy. The way that they use Eric Reed, I think, is the way that Fred Warner can excel. I'm excited to see him. So, you sparked an idea in my head, and that might be something that I have to break down later on. I beat you to it. I'm gonna have to break that down later on. I like that the Fred Warner idea. So you think it's going to be Fred Warner stepping up in place of Foster?
I kind of feel that way, and I overlooked Coyle. He played pretty well when he got the opportunity last year, considering he was just really looked at as a special teams guy when he stepped in. He did okay, but I just think Fred Warner is a modern type of linebacker, and I love the pick in the 3rd round for him. And I feel like the team's going to want to get him on the field. So unless he comes in and he's just behind the curve right away, I feel like if he comes in and has a good camp, the Niners are going to want to get him out there. And obviously, Malcolm Smith is making the money. So to me, those are the two guys that I think are going to step up. I believe Coyle will make the team. And I like Toomer coming in too. I think there's some sneaky depth at that linebacker position right now. So we'll see what happens, but I'm a big Fred Warner guy.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to get into it. For the people who are watching now, again, there's about 31 live viewers. I want to thank you guys. I am pulling up the chat now. I get yelled at all the time. I see the comments when I go back and watch it again. People saying, I wish the moderators would read the comments. So, guys, I am going to read through these comments. While I do that, Al, I'm going to give you the floor really quick. This is just a stall tactic here, and it's okay. Tell the people who you are, a little bit more about yourself, your journey, and how you came to work with 49ers Web Zone while I catch up on these comments and get the crowd involved in this conversation.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, Al Sacco, senior writer at 49ers Web Zone, and I co-host the No Huddle podcast of 49ers Web Zone. Wrote for a few different sites when I first started. I did 49ers Gab, Sports Out West. A couple of ones that I don't even remember off the top of my head, but I've been with the web zone for about 4 years. It's gone great, man. I mean, they give me opportunities I couldn't even have imagined. I'm credentialed to the team. I've been able to cover games. I've gone on 95.7 The Game, and through our podcast, which the No Huddle podcast, you could find on iTunes, find on our website, you could find on SoundCloud. It's been crazy for the last year and a half. We've gotten to talk to guests that I couldn't even imagine we've gotten to talk to. We have current players, former players, guys from NFL Network, guys from CBS, Larry Krueger from KNBR, Brian Murphy, Ted Robinson. We had Joe Starkey on, which was really cool. So it's been great to be able to do that, and I can't thank the fans enough for the response. It's just been terrific.
Absolutely, man. You're getting a lot of love in these comments over here, man. People saying, hey, what's up, Al? I follow you on Twitter.
Cool.
Alexander Sandoval. Yeah, I mean, people will they're bombing on me. I can't take Mike serious since he said that Matt Breida and Trent Taylor might not make the team. So the hate is in here. The love is in here for you. That's a good thing, though, man. That's a good thing. So I'm going to keep my eye on that, but we're going to go ahead and get down to the meat and potatoes of everything, man. Guys, if you don't already, make sure you check out their podcast, man. It is amazing, the 49ers Web Zone podcast. I love it. And like you said, they talk to players, and it's just great, man. If you guys are into 49er podcast, and if you're watching this, you most likely are. You're probably already subscribed to it, but if not, make sure you guys check it out, okay?
Appreciate that, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
No problem at all. All right, so let's start with season expectations, okay? If you talk to fans, you're going to hear anything from playoff bound, Super Bowl bound. You're going to hear 10 wins is the floor. What you don't hear a lot of is 6 wins again. 7 wins. Maybe let's just break even at 8-8. A lot of fans are hyped. They're feeling this. Jimmy Garoppolo came in obviously and went 5-0 at the end, and even his little bit of time that he got against Seattle, he looked really good. He moved the ball well. The fans feel like the offense is going to be unstoppable with Garoppolo at the helm and Shanahan calling the shots. So, Al, what I want from you is to try to give us a breakdown, and you can talk about the defense also. What are your expectations for the season? I know it's early. We haven't seen a preseason snap. This is nothing that we're going to hold you to. Just like, well, at least I hope the fans or the viewers who are watching don't hold you to it. Don't hold me to what I'm going to say either. But without seeing a preseason snap, without seeing how this team is going to look in year 2 with Jimmy Garoppolo, what are your expectations? What are you hoping for? Just go from there. What are your expectations right now?
My expectations are this team is going to be a playoff caliber team. But listen, in the NFL, there's a fine line between 7-9 and 10-6. A couple plays can take you from 10 wins to 7 wins. So while I think this team is a playoff caliber team, I think you got to sort of pump the brakes on the expectations just a little bit. And I kind of feel they're a year away from being a real serious Super Bowl contender. That's not to say that I don't think they're going to have a good season. I do. I'm a huge believer in Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm a huge believer in Kyle Shanahan. And I think I do think they're going to win 10 games this year. But is that even going to be enough in the NFC? The NFC is loaded. Minnesota, Green Bay. There's so many good teams, the Rams, the Eagles. So 10-6 may not even get you in the playoffs this year. It's going to be tough. And also, there's so much hype around Garoppolo right now, and it's well-deserved. But what happens if he comes out in Minnesota? Because, listen, he has 7 career starts, and I love the guy. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback for a long time. And even if he does take a step back, he has a coach in Shanahan who can make up for that with scheme and everything else. But he only has 7 career starts, so he's going to have ups and downs. Any quarterback with 7 career starts will have ups and downs. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady yet. And he's got some gunslinger in him. So there's going to be some turnovers there. So if he comes out against the Vikings, who might go 14-2 this year, and he throws 2 picks and they lose, I don't know, 27-13, are people going to start to say, well, wait a minute. And I think you got to let the season play out. I think this season's going to ebb and flow. I think there's going to be ups and downs. And we have to see how this team comes together. There's a lot of young players on both sides of the ball. We haven't seen Garoppolo with Garcon yet. Can Marquise Goodwin do what he did last year and repeat his performance? I love the McGlinchey pick, and I think he's going to be a really good player for a long time. But let's look at pass protection. Trent Brown was one of the best pass protectors in the league last year. It's unfair to say that McGlinchey is going to come in right away and be this great pass protector. I think he'll get there eventually, and he's going to be a better run blocker than Brown is. But, again, rookie right tackle, there's going to be some growing pains. We'll see what happens at the guard position. We don't know yet. Can Kittle take a step forward? Can Taylor take a step forward? What's going to happen at running back? We've never seen McKinnon carry the load. And I actually love Matt Breida. I think Breida is going to lead the team in rushing this year. And I think McKinnon will obviously be involved more in the passing game. And he'll get his share of carries too. But we have to see how that running back tandem works. We don't know yet. And as far as the defense, I love their defensive line. Buckner, I think Thomas is going to have a good year. Sheldon Day, Armstead's better than he gets credit for. But they don't have that outside pass rusher. They didn't really address that. So is that going to come back to bite them? They're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle with Itachu and Marsh. But can those guys step up? I mean, they haven't done it yet. So, we don't know. In the secondary, you got to hope Sherman is healthy. If not, there's question marks there. Ward will step in, but behind that, there's youth. I love Witherspoon, but, we loved Robinson at this year last time too, right? And that didn't work out. I mean, I think Witherspoon is light years ahead of Rashard Robinson, and I think Witherspoon's going to be a Pro Bowl corner in this system. I really do. But we have to wait and see. It's a second season. Safety, I like where they are, and we'll see again. Reuben Foster has to kind of stay healthy and stay on the field. So a lot of question marks. And like I said, the team could, if they win 10 or 11 games, I wouldn't be surprised. If they go 7-9, I might not be surprised. So a lot can happen this year. I think they're a year away from being a serious Super Bowl contender, but I do think they're a playoff caliber team.
Awesome. Yeah, man, it's hard not to buy into the hype, right? I mean, there's so much going on around the team right now. And, before I give my season expectation, I want to talk about some of the things that you said. You said that you believe that Matt Breida is going to lead the team in rushing.
I think he's right up there. And listen, I don't know that they're going to have – I think it's being – in terms of carries, I think it's going to be more of a timeshare than we think. McKinnon just hasn't done it yet. And he might. Again, listen, Kyle Shanahan knows what he's doing. Kyle Shanahan knows more about offense than I ever will. So maybe he can come in and carry the ball 215 times and gain 800 to 1,000 yards. But I kind of feel like this could be more of a timeshare than people think in terms of running the ball. McKinnon's going to be very involved in the passing game. But in terms of running the ball, look, Breida had a terrific season last year for a rookie. He really did have a very good year, and he ended up with, I want to say 545 yards. Don't quote me, but it was right around there, which was one of the higher numbers the Niners have had for a rookie in a long time. Gore had more, Barlow had more. Who's the other person who had more? Oh, Kendall Hunter had more. But other than that, in the last 20 years, that's the most rushing yards for any running back that someone's had for the Niners. So I'm a big Breida guy, and I think the Niners are too. What may hold him back is if somebody like Joe Williams comes in and lives up to the expectations that they had from him. Then all of a sudden, maybe you have 3 guys who can get touches, and we'll see what happens. But I know you said you didn't think Breida was going to make the team. I think Breida is going to be a huge part of the team this year, a huge part of the team.
Yeah. All right. So let me explain myself really quick. All right. So I think the running back group is going to be loaded as far as talent goes. And I do think Breida is talented. So by no way am I taking anything away from him. The reason people hate what I said is because my reasoning behind it is that I don't think Breida does anything better than McKinnon is supposed to do things. And I'm saying it that way because they gave McKinnon a lot of money to do a lot of different things. They want him to be I think he was paid to come in and catch the ball, but also to break tackles and be elusive, right? So that's the same exact kind of back that Breida is. So if you're giving one guy all this money every year, and then you have the undrafted guy there, and I think there's going to be a lot more competition in other positions where we're going to have to make some tough cuts. I can see a situation where Breida, because he is, for lack of a better term, the poor man's version of McKinnon, because of that, I could see him just flat out being cut and us keeping an extra wide receiver or an extra corner or safety or an extra defensive lineman. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't because he's not good. That's not what my point was with it. It was just that I feel like he's a carbon copy of what McKinnon is supposed to be in theory.
Yeah, I don't think he gets cut. I don't think there's any way. I think 0% chance. I do, especially with all the injuries at running back. There's nobody behind it. I mean, there's nobody proven behind him. And I think he had a great year last year, and I think he got better as the season went on. Those last 2 games with Garoppolo, he had over 70 yards rushing in both games. And he was better than Hyde running the ball those last 4 or 5 games. So I don't think at all. I think the arrow's pointed up with him, and I think he's going to be a big part of this team for the next few years. And in terms of the contract, I get what you're saying, but I almost feel like the Niners, I mean, Breida's an undrafted guy. They don't have to pay him, and they wanted to bring in McKinnon for a certain skill set, and that's just the market. And it's basically a 1-year deal. So they bring him in this year, and he could do whatever they want him to do in the passing game. If it works out, great. And if not, they could really walk away without it hurting too much. So, yeah, I got to disagree with you on that. I think the arrow's pointed up with Breida. I think he's going to be a huge part of this offense. Huge part. And
this is why I love bringing other people in for other opinions. Let me tell you right now, the entire chat room is on your side. They hate me for saying it, but hey, look, man, I try to keep people on their toes. And another thing that I thought about with this salary, right? So you look at last year and you look at the year before. I mean, well, this year I should say, in last year, well, we bring in McKinnon, we pay him all this money, and at the face value, it looks like we well overpaid for a guy who has never sniffed 1,000 yards, who has never been higher than 3rd on the depth chart, right? It looks like we overpaid. I know that there are rules to the salary cap table where every couple of years you have to spend a certain percentage of the dollars. And I'm wondering if they had to overpay for guys just to meet those requirements. Because if you look back last year, we did the same thing with guys like Malcolm Smith, guys like Kyle Juszczyk, where we just seem to overpay based on the market. Kyle Juszczyk is paid double what the next closest fullback is to him, and I'm wondering if it was because of the salary cap rules. Any thought on that? I know we didn't talk about that ahead of time, but I'm just wondering if you have any thought on that.
I think the Niners don't get enough credit for how good they are at contracts in the salary cap. Parag Marathe, who's a great dude, I've gotten the chance to meet and talk with him a couple of times. He's a great guy. And he might be the best salary cap guy in the NFL. When the Niners sign someone, I know that contract is going to be team friendly. When you look at the contract they signed to, and you can't look at those numbers, you look at Richburg's contract, oh my God, it's this huge deal. The Niners are so smart with the way that they break up the money. And I know a few years ago under Trent Baalke, this organization, the front office was getting slammed, but Prague's showing that he does a tremendous job with the contracts. And the Niners, every deal they sign is team friendly. So yeah, when you look at some of these deals, maybe it is, like I said, with McKinnon, they say, okay, let's pay him a ton for this year. Let's see what he can do. And then if it works, great. We have him for another couple of years at a more reasonable salary because it was so front loaded. And if not, we could walk away. I really do. I think in terms of the NFL, they're one of the best front offices in terms of structuring their contracts in the league. They really are.
All right. So I will give you the structuring of the contract. That, I will say, impresses me every time the contract comes out. I mean, I'm like, he can't keep doing this to people. He can't keep doing this to people. And then boom, the Richard Sherman contract comes out. Like, this has got to stop. Boom, the McKinnon contract comes out. And I'm like, how does he keep getting away with it? So I got a little theory on this. And now I'm a little bit of an antagonist. I'm a little bit of a devil's advocate type of guy. So just bear with me here, right? Is Prague getting away with this because of the simple fact that Niners haven't had any superstar talent that they've brought in or to re-sign? Because I don't think Ndamukong Suh is going to sign the contract like that. I don't think a guy, you know what I'm saying? Like Jimmy Garoppolo, is his contract really that team friendly? I mean, I think it is. If you get past the first 3 years, then yeah. But is it really that team friendly? So I think that when you're dealing with athletes of a different stratosphere, when you're dealing with the biggest of the biggest free agents on the market, then all of a sudden you can't structure. Maybe you can. I don't know, because we haven't been there. But do you think that the team is getting away with it because we haven't had to retain any superstars, and we haven't really brought in any superstars to play under the 49ers in a very long time?
Well, we'll find out. They obviously, I thought they did a great job with the Garoppolo contract, but where we're going to find out what you're saying is with the DeForest Buckner contract, because that's the next big one that's going to come up, and that's the next superstar one that's going to come up. Because listen, this guy's going to be a superstar. So when that happens, let's see how those two are structured and see what else they can do. Because you're right, they had the Kaepernick contract. That was basically a year-to-year thing. And they haven't really had a lot of players. I know you're talking about like an Odell Beckham or somebody like that, where you got to pay this big money to. That hasn't happened yet. But we'll find out when they have Garoppolo and Buckner. But I feel the Niners, that's the one part of this team that I have confidence in is how they're going to structure salaries. They know what they're doing there. And listen, I'm not an apologist for the team. I was the first person to destroy them in the previous few years when things were going bad. I was very critical of them. But I think they've done an excellent job the past year and a half or so, and definitely with these contracts. I'm really optimistic with them, and we'll see, because they got to get Buckner locked up, and that'll probably be something that we'll see after this season if he has the year that everybody expects him to. But it's a fair point, and I guess the only answer to that is we'll see what happens when they have to cross that bridge.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hope I'm not making you dizzy with the flashing reds over here.
No, it's all good. You're all good, dude. You're all
I
good.
don't know why my camera does that sometimes. All right. So another thing that you said, and I know I still haven't got to my season expectations. I'm going to try to get through it quickly. Like I said, send me a signal or something if we need to start wrapping up, and that's all on me. Yeah. Another thing that you said, you talked about how the NFL, a season or games can be determined, which in turn affect your total season, by a couple of plays each game. And this is something that I've been wanting to ask everybody. So I got you on here. I'm going to ask you this. Everyone remembers that 5-game stretch that we lost by 3 points or less. 2 of those games back to back, we went to overtime, and we still couldn't pull the games out. My question that I've been wanting to ask everybody is this: had the 49ers won those 5 games, I'm not saying that we make the playoffs, we lose all the other games that we lost, but let's say we won those games, does CJ Beathard get in? And if not, do the Niners try to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo at the trade deadline?
It would have been interesting to see, because, if they're going into that and they have 5 or 6 wins, they might have kind of stayed status quo. But I think things got so bad, and they were competitive in the beginning of the season, and then they had the blowouts against Dallas, and the Philly game was just ugly. And I think everything came to a head, and that's when the move was made. But, if you're one of those people who believe that things happen for a reason, maybe they lost those games to get that franchise guy in here. But yeah, the Hoyer stuff, and I was one of those people who thought Hoyer, I didn't think he was going to make the Pro Bowl, but I thought he would be serviceable, at least with Shanahan. It didn't really happen that way. So, they were definitely competitive. I thought the defense was decent in the beginning of the season, but the offense, other than the Rams game, just couldn't do anything. And Beathard wasn't ready. He was in over his head, and Beathard may end up being a decent quarterback someday, but he just wasn't ready last year. He had a good game against the Giants, but other than that, he did struggle. He held on to the ball too long. He didn't really seem like he knew what to do in the pocket. But, listen, things were ugly, and credit to Lynch and Shanahan. They made the move, and they went and got a guy that they weren't 100% sure was going to work, and Garoppolo wasn't 100% sure it was going to work with them. And it just did. Just everything clicked in those final 5 games, and they won games they had no business of winning, or at least you wouldn't think that a few weeks previously. So, that's why expectations are so high, and it looks like they have a franchise quarterback in here. And like I said earlier, even if he's not quite to that level yet, you still have a coach who's so good that's going to scheme to make him look better than he is. So when you get a quarterback that talented and a coach like that, that's the reason for the optimism. You think about what this team did to Jacksonville, and Jalen Ramsey called it scheme, whatever. It was a mixture of both to me. It was scheme and the quarterback making plays. So we'll see what they can do over a full season, and hopefully this offense can come out and score a lot of points, because I think, like I said, the defense is on the rise too. So right now you have a team with a lot of arrows pointed up. There aren't a lot of things. Staley's getting older. Sherman's a little bit older. We got to see how he comes back from the injury. But other than that, there's a lot of young, good players with the arrow pointed up on this team. So it's an exciting thing.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And that's going to lead me to my season expectations. what I'm looking forward to the most this year, it's not about wins and losses for me. As far as what I'm looking forward to, I hope, I wish, I dream, I pray that we win the Super Bowl this year. So let's get that out the way. I think every fan of every team feels that way. But what I'm looking forward to the most is Shanahan's fingerprint, his thumbprint. I want to see Shanahan's vision come to life. He has been playing coordinator his entire career, and you hear the maturation every time he speaks during a presser or an interview. I heard him recently talking about how, when practices were going on, him being the offensive coordinator, he wanted practices to keep going. He got mad at the head coach for saying, all right, that's enough. We don't want to risk any injuries. And in his head, it's just a couple more plays. What's the big deal? It's just a couple more plays. Let's keep doing it. But now that he's a head coach, he's realizing that, look, a couple of plays is all it takes to overwork somebody or to overextend a hammy in practice and things like that. And it's just not quite worth doing. So, he's learning on the fly, I guess to say. He's taking his time, but this is what I think about Shanahan, and what I'm looking forward to. I want to see his vision come to fruition. All right. We know what he can do on an offense or with an offense if he can take his time there. We've seen him do explosive things in Houston. We've seen him do them in Washington. We've seen him do them in Cleveland. We've even seen him do it as recent as in Atlanta. Okay. It takes a couple of seasons, but here we are going into his second season with this team. And that's just the offensive side of the ball, but there's more to his vision than just that. We expect that. We want to see the genius game plan against the toughest defenses, right? We want to see us go out there against the Minnesota Vikings in week 1, who are arguably the best position by position. The 11 people on their defense, they're probably one of the best defenses that are in the NFL. We want to see us go out there and at least be competitive against those guys, right? But that's not where his vision stops. It's not just on the offensive side of the ball. He specifically picked that Seattle Seahawk type defense to be his defense because he said that was the hardest to game plan against. And so that tells me that he wants to not only have a finesse and aggressive offense, he wants to have an aggressive and a bully mentality on defense. Can you imagine a team that has both? It's so rare that you get to see both. You think back to Seattle and their 4-year run where they just seemed to be on top of the NFC, right? It was less about the offense and so much more about the defense. You think about every Aaron Rodgers team that you've ever seen. You expect them to make the playoffs. You expect them to make a push for the Super Bowl. But what you don't expect to see is a defense that is keeping Aaron Rodgers in the games in case he has an off day. You know what I mean? And any team that's been in the NFC, it kind of falls that way. You know what I mean? If you look at the Atlanta Falcons, they were more about the offense that year. They went to the Super Bowl than they were the defense. The defense helped out every once in a while, but they weren't anything spectacular. I'm looking for the balance. That's my season expectation. I want to see a very good defense complemented by a very good offense, and the combination of that is going to be so much fun to watch. Now, the third phase of the game, the special teams, well, that's going to come down to some very hard roster cuts to make because you got guys like Raheem Mostert who just may not make the cut but are special team aces. Aaron Burbridge, guys who may not make the cut because of the wide receivers that we've brought in but are special team aces. So I can't say that I'm looking for, a complimentary. I'm hoping for it, but I can't say that I'm looking for a complimentary team in all 3 phases. But offense and defense, man, if this vision comes to fruition, it's going to be something special, man. That's what I look forward to the most. I was talking to the guys about the guys in our group chat for NB Niners. I was talking to them about season expectations and specifically with game 1. Does the week 1 game affect how you feel about the rest of the season, whether we win or lose? If we go in there and we lose by 2, or if we go in there and we win by 7, or if we go in there and we get blown out, is it going to affect the way that you think about the rest of the season? What's going to be the reaction to that game? And I know that we're not there yet. I know it's hard to think about, but if we go into Minnesota and we just flat out look incompetent, you don't think that the fans are going to panic?
I mean, they might, but you have to practice patience right now. You really do. And Minnesota, again, that could be a 14-2 team. I think they're really that good. The defense is loaded. They bring in Cousins. They have a lot of weapons on offense. That could be your Super Bowl winner right there. So You have to take that game with a grain of salt. And also with the way the rules are in the NFL now anyway, it takes teams a while to get going. So you got to kind of wait and see where they are in October and then see where they are in November and see where they are in December. They could end up being 5-6 and run off 5 in a row like they did last year. So got to let the season play out. Got to see how Garoppolo progresses. Got to see how these young players grow and then make your judgments. It's going to be a process.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So thanks for bearing with me and hearing my season expectation. I'm looking for competitiveness, and I want to see a good defense as well as a good offense, and not just one or the other. I want to see good games on both sides of the ball. I want it to be hard for teams to move the ball on us, and I want us to move the ball at will against our opponents. Okay. So we're going to get the breakout players, okay? We want to do one on offense and one on defense. So I'm going to let you go first since I just finished up over here with the season expectations. Give me your breakout player on offense first.
My guy's George Kittle, and I'll tell you why. If you look at what he did last year statistics-wise, he had 515 yards, okay? That's more yards as a rookie than Jimmy Graham, Zach Ertz, Vernon Davis, Antonio Gates, Jordan Reed. The only big-time tight end that had more yards than him as a rookie is Gronk. And Travis Kelce was hurt his rookie year, so you can't really count that. But I see him taking that next step to being a 700, 800-yard tight end, maybe around 7 or 8 touchdowns, which is going to put him in the elite tight end range. So I really like him as my breakout for offense.
Okay. All right. I like that. George Kittle is one of my favorite guys on the team. And it's not just because we had him on here, but it was because I like his enthusiasm for the game, man. That guy, he fights hard. I heard in an interview after the Jaguars game where he caught the pass. He was about 3 yards shy of the end zone. He turned around and he lunged. And he said, all I kept thinking about was the play from the Steelers game where the tight end did something similar and it popped out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he was like, just hold on to the ball. Just hold on to the ball. And he gets up and he's so enthusiastic, man. That energy, man. I love that. I absolutely love it. And we need more of it on this team. So I like George Kittle. My breakout player, believe it or not, is going to be Jerick McKinnon. And his salary has a lot to do with it. His salary tells me that he's going to get touches per game. All right. He's going to get touches like he's never had in Minnesota. And just that alone and the way Kyle Shanahan schemes up his offense and should get him the ball in space should mean that he should have a good year. I'm talking about 1,300, 1,400 yards from scrimmage. I'm not saying that he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, but between the passing game and the running game, he should be a player that's very, very exciting to watch. Pierre Garçon is going to come in here, and we have expectations for him. We know that he's that savvy vet with good hands, and he's a physical wide receiver. We know that Trent Taylor in the slot is just the man. He's going to run his routes well. He's going to catch the ball. He's sure-handed. He dropped like one pass that I can think of, and running his slant routes and things like that. We have a rookie in Dante Pettis where we don't have expectations for him. But, when you have a guy like McKinnon, it's time for him to break out. It's time for him to leave his imprint on the NFL. It's time for people to say, you know what, that guy was worth it. And like I said, if you can get him 1,200 to 1,400 yards, scrimmage yards this year, that to me is going to be a breakout season for McKinnon. So now I'm going to pass it back to you, Al. Give me a defensive breakout player this year. And God, I hope you don't take the same guy.
There's a lot of guys I like on defense. I think Solomon Thomas is going to take a big jump this year. Again, I like Witherspoon a lot, but the guy I'm going to go with is Adrian Colbert. And I just think the reason is for that. Is that your guy?
No, it's not. It's not. That's good. That's good.
But yeah, I think he's like a missile back there. I think he's perfect for this defense. And he came in last year, and you noticed him on the field. You noticed him flying around. And Lynch and Shanahan were very quick to say, yeah, this guy's our free safety. He took a guy making $8.5 million, Jimmy Ward, who the team liked last year in that role, and pushed him into being an expensive utility player. He's built for this defense. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have a big season.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really quick before I give you my defensive player, you mentioned Jimmy Ward. What would you do with him? Now he's here on an expensive price tag. Are you really going to let him ride the bench and give him first dibs for anybody that goes down in the backup position? How would you use Jimmy Ward this season?
Unless there's someone on the team that they don't want to lose, a young player that they're like, we have to keep him on the roster. They have so much salary cap space. Who cares about the $8.5 million? And keep him on the team, because if you don't know about Sherman's foot, there's a lot of youth out there. Injuries happen. We saw the injuries at safety last year. Keep him on the team, use him as a utility player, and plug him in where you need to. If there's a young guy that steps up and you're like, you know what, this guy can play, we want him, and try to trade Ward or whatever you got to do. But I think you can afford the salary. It's not hurting you. Use him as an expensive utility player because they're going to need him.
Yeah. My little conspiracy theory, really quick. One of the comments in here just asked, are the Vikings at home? Yes, the Vikings are home week 1, guys. So that's going to be a tough game for the Niners. But with Jimmy Ward, I think I would start him in the slot. I really do. And I like Kwan Williams. I like what he did last year. But I remember Jimmy Ward playing in the slot, and he was pretty freaking good and impressive over there. His ability to go left and right just as quick without hesitation and all, it was pretty valuable out there. I really liked him in the middle of the field. So I would move him there. I would hope that he doesn't have a stellar year, but you see what he can do when he's out there, even if he comes in as a backup. And what I'm hoping for, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm hoping that due to his injuries and how often he's off the field, the Niners can sign him to a cheap deal and bring him back. Jimmy Ward is a player on this team that improves our entire secondary by himself, just because he's a backup for all 5 positions. And so if he can be that guy, he's that valuable. It's just a matter of time before he's healthy or he's used the right way where he can finish an entire season and come in, like you said, as that expensive utility player to be pretty good. So that's what I would do with him. I would let him battle it out with Kwan Williams for the starting slot role, and if he doesn't make it, he's our first backup, and he helps this team. Normally, when a backup comes in, you are taking a significant step back. I don't think it's going to be that significant with Jimmy Ward. I think that he can come in for a second-year Kello Witherspoon and give us similar production. I think that he can come in for a 85% Richard Sherman and give us similar production. And we already know that he can play safety. I don't think that he's going to be as good as at free safety as Adrian Colbert, because Colbert's angles and his reaction times are just, to me, they seem a lot better than Jimmy Ward's, but I do think that he could play the other positions well enough where it's not a significant step back just because you go to a backup. And for my breakout player on defense, it's going to be someone that I have been pulling for like crazy. It's Eric Armstead. I am hoping that Eric Armstead comes in here and he has the season to remember. He hasn't really given us anything to be proud about or to pound our chest about or anything like that. He's got a lot of doubters. He has shed a lot of fat. He's got a lot more muscle on him. I've seen some videos of him recently. I think just yesterday I saw one of them. He's doing this exercise on his knees, and the guy looks like he's throwing, I don't know if they're golf balls or ping pong balls at him, and he's like batting them down with his hands. It's like a hands exercise to show how quick his hands are. And you can see, even though he's wearing a T-shirt, you can see the cuts in his arm, and you can see the definition there. He's changed his body, much like Joshua Garnett. And I'm hoping that Eric Armstead, Eric Armstead is who DeForest Buckner. Wait, I'm sorry. DeForest Buckner is what Eric Armstead was supposed to be when we got him. He's the guy in there who demands the double team. He's the big, tall, strong guy who is barreling his way to the quarterback, who gets a ton of pressures. The problem is that he just can't stay healthy. You put him and a guy like Buckner on the field at the same time, someone from the outside is finally going to get some pressure and sacks on the quarterback. And I'm hoping that Eric Armstead gets this chance to come in and make a difference and make the rest of the defensive line look a lot better. So
yeah, look, the Niners believe in Armstead. They picked up that option, and I thought they missed him when he was out last year. He hasn't lived up to the hype of a first-round pick by any stretch of the imagination. But he's a decent player. If he was a third or fourth-round pick, you'd say, he's a good rotational defensive lineman. So while he hasn't been that first-round pick, he's, in terms of a first-round pick, it's been a bust so far. But he definitely is a good player, and the Niners missed him when he was out last year.
Absolutely. So, all right, Al, that's going to really do it for us right now. Are you working on any projects or anything like that you want to talk about? Do you want to tell
just
the
show, man? A lot of stuff with the show. We got Larry Krueger on this week from KNBR, and Ted Robinson, the voice of the 49ers, is going to be joining us at the end of the month. So, yeah, we're excited. A lot of good stuff coming up, and thank you so much for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
No, not a problem at all, man. I want to thank you sincerely for taking your time out to come on the show and do this with me. I really appreciate it. We went a little over our time limit, but the chat is live. We got people talking and the juice is flowing there, so that is a good thing. Again, thank you for taking the time out. You guys make sure you check him out, ALSACCO49 on Twitter. If you guys don't know already, I am 49ers Mike _NF Check me out over there as well. You can check out the actual page. That is Nothing But Nine ERS on Twitter. You can shoot us an email, nbniners@nothingbutniners.com. Let us know what guests you want us to bring on, any topics you want discussed or anything like that, and we'll get back to you. We'll take care of it for you, okay? And that's it for us, man. We're going to get up out of here. Above all else, stay faithful, guys.